It's time for the main event. It's One Piece time.
One Piece Sakun.
Yes. Freaking chapter something.
It's in your 783. You're in my way.
Yeah. It is the opposite of 387, which is we'll
Gear.
get there.
Yeah. Anyway, so before we talk about the end, let's talk about the rest of the chapter.
Yeah.
So it starts off basically re-showing the fact that Trable. Well, it doesn't show Trable; it just shows the explosion.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what I mean. I'm glad that this basically the fact that they didn't show him means that he was taken out or is gone, done, out of this equation.
Mm-hmm.
But it would have been a little better if we would have at least seen him, out cold on the ground or better dead.
Agreed.
On the ground. At least then we would know for sure, because when it comes to Oda, if the fact that we haven't seen Trable's body only means that Trable could try and do something later on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll get into what I think that might be later on.
Uh-huh.
Now, because it involves talking about something else that we haven't talked about yet in the review.
You know what I thought was interesting is that we talked about all these ways that Law was going to be saved, and it was way more simple than what we were thinking. Luffy just saved him, outright saved him.
Yes, and what's even more surprising, and not everybody caught it because I've seen a decent amount of videos on reviews, and not everybody either. Some people, only like one or two people mentioned it, but the fact is that it's actually come to my attention that some people actually didn't notice that Luffy also saved the arm.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty. I mean, since I thought it was pretty obvious to me. I immediately saw him say, I saw the arm,
Mm-hmm.
the separate arm. So I didn't even think that it would be possible that someone would miss over or skip, accidentally miss it.
Uh-huh.
So it's interesting that that would happen.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also interesting to find out that it isn't just as simple as Mancheri, using her powers to regrow the arm or just lay the arm right next to the body and just do it. No, Leo does have to attach it first, and he's going to have trouble doing so because of the jagged way it was cut off.
I forgot about Leo's stitch power. That was I completely forgot about that shit.
A lot of people did.
Yeah.
So that, and then of course Doflamingo, he tries to take out Law and Robin, which doesn't work.
In comes Cavendish. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like
Now,
Cavendish, so yeah.
It was kind of odd in the translations because I did both Manga Stream and Manga Panda, but
Mm-hmm.
the first time I read it was Manga Panda, and the Manga Panda translation made it sound like what the text bubble of they didn't say bullet string, said something else, so it
Uh-huh.
made it seem like that was a part of Luffy's attack.
Uh-huh.
So it made it kind of weird, which happens from time to time when it comes to translations.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
But it was bullet strings.
Yeah.
And before we go on, we forgot to talk about that cover story about how Watatsume is going to be now travel with Jinbei.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, that's important to note because it's Jinbei. It's seeming as if Jinbei is going to be coming back up sooner than we thought, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
So that would mean Watatsume is going to come in. I just thought that was interesting. That was pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. I'm not too interested in the cover story right now, but.
But all right, here I found it in the text bubble. Instead of saying bullet string, it said Doflamingo saying termite. So then it sounds like it's Luffy saying termite hawk whip.
Oh.
He just says termite. He doesn't say anything else to indicate his attack.
Hmm.
The rest of it is. So it's weird. But yeah, then Cavendish comes in, precious metal axe, even though it's a sword,
Yeah.
and just blocks it. So it's cool. And of course, the funny thing is now everybody's. I just love how everybody's calling Cavendish Cabbage now. Like, even like, well, it's just I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
But
Same.
the thing that was most funny about the first thing that he says, that Cavendish says, that actually basically translates to like it's basically Oda putting in what the fans are saying.
Yep.
Is when he says, "I fell asleep. The battle isn't over yet, Straw Hat."
Mm-hmm.
Basically saying, like, come on. But hands down, the funniest thing with Cavendish is when Luffy's like, take care of Law, get everyone to safety, and then somehow he somehow rationalizes.
Yeah. He
He
basically
basically
says like
because
this
of
means this,
popularity,
which means this, which means
which
he's a
means
fan of
Straw.
mine.
Yeah, and then I can't refuse a request from a fan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was cool.
So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see. That was funny. Anyway, and then they're like, "Oh, let's have Bartolomeo make a staircase with his powers," and he's still foaming at the mouth over what Zoro did. Which then brings up the question: if if he's still foaming at the mouth at what Zoro did, what is his reaction going to be when he sees what Luffy's about to do?
I know.
I don't know if Cavendish is going to live through this arc. Just from sheer fan overkill.
Yeah.
And you see a couple of, and then Doflamingo continues his taunting about, oh well, why are you trying to save Law? He's has 1 foot basically has 1 foot in the grave already.
Mm-hmm.
But Luffy's like, nope. If you want to kill him, you got to get through. You got to kill me first, which is typical.
Oh yeah.
But then Doflamingo's like, well, what are you gonna do? You're already you're halfway dead already yourself. And then Luffy's like, well, so are you. You did take the Law's attack head on.
Mm-hmm.
And then Luffy goes for a bazooka, which looks like it hits him and sends him back, but really makes, at least the way Doflamingo's drawn, it looks more like he jumped back as the attack hit him.
Yeah, probably.
And then he makes the statement a statement that, combined with the ending, has caused so much, like, the fan theories to go up the wazoo, and that's,
oh yeah,
sure, you might be fast enough, but you're still lacking power.
Mm-hmm.
And then he proceeds to bring back the overheat technique.
Yeah.
Which looks like Luffy barely dodged.
Mm-hmm. That thing is nasty.
And then, of course, Oda couldn't resist throwing in a flashback.
Yeah, of course.
And Doflamingo basically is like, oh, look at this. So, remember when I've been he's freaking pulling a Kubo. Oh, I've been following you. I've known about you for all this time and been following your, everything. Like, really?
Mm-hmm.
saying, blah, 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 blah. You were lucky to get here. Got a couple of good moves in during the speech, destroying more of the castle. And then, just as they're preparing to leave, take Law away, he says, "No, I want to stay here. I've lived all these years to kill Doflamingo, and I've done all I can, and all that's left to do is to leave it up to Luffy. And if he wins, I want to be here to see it. If he loses, I want to die alongside him."
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty, cool. I think it's pretty cool of Law. I mean, it makes sense, But then he makes the foolish statement of saying, "Oh, it was me who got him involved in this fight. Just leave me here." And then Robin's like, "Nope, you have it wrong. Luffy's our captain, and he doesn't get involved in fights unless he has to.
Yeah.
And unless he wants to. So he didn't get into this fight because you brought him into it. He got into this fight because he wanted to."
Yes, nobody is ever responsible for Luffy's actions except for Luffy, and that is like a golden rule.
It's the golden. Not only is it the golden rule, it's legitimately the main thing that everybody's annoyed about with Luffy. Mm-hmm. His crewmates are like, "Oh my god, we can't control him."
Exactly.
But it's the stuff he does when they're not controlling him, and when he goes off and does his weird and idiotic stuff, that he does the stuff that they respect. And because you get those, because there have been several times throughout the series where people are like, "Oh well, why are you still doing, follow this person, he's a complete idiot," and then they'll like say something, "Oh well, we don't like," they'll say something bad about him, but then they're like, "Well, but besides that, it doesn't matter that he does this, or he acts like this. Somewhere deep down, somehow, some way, him doing this has made us respect him." And then Cavendish decides to stay behind and says, "Okay, everyone else, I'll be here to protect this man with the death wish, Law."
Mm-hmm.
And Law's like, "Oh well, if you want to die, that's fine, but that's only if they kill me first." So
yeah.
And then he proceeds to give Robin his coat, because she's still bleeding, and I kind of got a slight chuckle when she looks at her back that's still bleeding, and she's like, "Oh yeah, that happened."
Yeah.
I mean, obviously all she said was, "Huh?" And then looks back, "Oh." But it was more like one of those, "Oh well." But when you combine the word "oh" with the look, if you can just tell, if you were to say what she was the way she looked, it'd be, "Oh, that happened."
Mm-hmm.
And then now I'm not exactly sure what Leo and Mancherry are gonna do, because they just look at each other seriously.
Yeah.
So are they gonna leave? Are they gonna stay? Like what?
I have no idea.
And then we have Luffy go for his Grizzly Magnum, or if you were reading the manga Panda's translation, Grizzly Knuckle.
Yeah, it's blatantly Magnum.
Yeah. So what makes now the Doflamingo is able to dodge it, and then takes this opportunity to get a hit on Luffy, because once you dodge one of his Gear 3rd techniques, he's pretty much wide open until his hands return to him or legs return to him.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then of course Doflamingo continuing with the taunting, saying, "Oh well, I thought, what happened to you not wasting the Law's attack?
Yeah.
You got 1 hour till the bird cage closes in, but I'm pretty sure there's some injured people, some old people, some babies. Who's going to be the first victim? They're not going to they're going to be taken out pretty soon. I mean, gosh, under probably the next 30 minutes, people will start dying." and then in 40 minutes, you'll be able to hear the screams all the way from up here,
Uh-huh.
and in 50 minutes, there'll be so much blood all over the place it'll be look like someone crushed a giant tomato over the country. And then by the time the hour's up, it'll be completely silent. But then he's like, oh, well, it doesn't really, you shouldn't be concerned yourself with the business of what's going to happen with this country. I mean, because, everyone who's going to die today is going to be blaming you with their last breath. I mean, if you hadn't come to this country, Dressrosa would have been peaceful.
Which is awful thinking, but...
in a way, it's true. Because, I mean, yes, it was a false peace, but, the status quo, people were living happily for the most part. For the most part, if you were just, someone who was a passerby, just a traveler who went through, didn't get involved with the Doflamingo family, just stopped by and then was able to leave without any trouble happening to them. The country looks peaceful.
Relatively, yeah.
Yeah, which is what Doflamingo set up, was a false peace, but it's false because it's only on the surface is there actually peace. So in a way, he's right, but it's also very dark thinking on Doflamingo's part.
Mm-hmm.
Then Luffy, just screams out, yelling, "No, this is a lie. It was all an act."
Mm-hmm.
There was such a great separation of light and darkness in this country that it was obvious to anybody who's anybody really important in this world would have noticed.
Yes, anybody who has a brain and eyes can tell you that
and Luffy,
it's your damn fault.
Yeah, saying, "Oh, the toys in this country were once humans," but then Doflamingo even says something in response that's both, dark but at the same time true. I mean, there's always going to be people who are going to be unfortunate and, going to be in trouble or in pain. You can't save them all, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Well, what are you? Why are you playing the hero? You're just a pirate passing by. The only thing you're doing is getting in my way." And then Luffy's like, "Nope, you're in my way.
Mm-hmm.
You made my friend cry, my comrades angry, and even after all that, you're still standing. So I'll take it all. I won't let anybody else die. You and your birdcage is in my way." And as he seemingly looks like he's trying to bite his arm or something,
Mm-hmm.
and Doflamingo's intrigued, and he says the thing that has gotten the entire fandom and the entire internet in a tizzy: Gear Fourth.
Yep.
And ends off saying, putting all he has into overcoming his boundaries. And the thing that puts it the internet in even further of a tizzy: "Oh, we'll be on hiatus next issue. We plan to resume publication with the Weekly Jump 22 to 23 double issue."
Yep.
Now, why, you may ask, is this pissing people off and getting everyone in a tizzy? Well, for one thing, everybody's been, this entire arc, the closer and closer we got to this fight, people kept saying over and over again, how is Luffy going to beat Doflamingo? Is he going to be able to beat him on his own? Well, even though he's come up with a technique, he's going to display a new technique, or should I say a new ability, that's going to make him far stronger than Doflamingo. It's unfortunate because the battle has been going on for a while, and Doflamingo's taken a lot of damage already.
Mm-hmm.
And not all of it was from Luffy. So even if Gear Fourth is the thing that takes Doflamingo down, you still can't say that Luffy took him down by himself.
Yep, and I kind of like that. Just saying.
However, Luffy's also very damaged, so I feel like this is still not, even with Luffy activating Gear Fourth, and even if it looks all out, I still don't think it's all out, because the fact that Luffy is completely exhausted at this point. I feel like it's the same thing that happened at Fishman Island, where, he just the only reason he just even his full power would have been far too much for it would have been he was too powerful for Horty Jones, but the only thing that kept it going was the fact that he just kept taking the steroids, and they were fighting in the water, and they just kept prolonging the fight, and Luffy just kept getting more and more tired. So it took longer for him to beat him. And this is, I feel, the same case, is that Luffy using Gear Force when he's this tired is one level of power. But if he was using it as, like, fresh, when he's much more fresh, probably would be even stronger. But of course, it's not the shonen way for the hero to pull out his best technique at the very beginning to end the fight quickly.
Yeah.
Like there have been many perfect examples of this, such as like from DBZ, when Goku was facing Fat Boo, he could have used Super Saiyan 3 and beat him right then and there. But he didn't. He used it, but he didn't use it to win. He used it to stall.
Yep.
And let's see, what are some other good examples?
Let's not go there. Let's stick with
I know.
Stick with One Piece and the chapter specifically, so we don't go off into an hour-long discussion here.
Well, no. I mean, the point is that the only other the best example of it is those really, really, really OP old people that always seem to pop up in shonen. Like, if any of them used their best techniques right off the bat, the series would have been over.
Yeah.
For the most part. So, the fact of the matter is that Luffy, what is this going to do? That's the big question on everyone's mind, is what is Gear Force? What is it going to do? The one that makes the current theory that I've seen that makes the most sense is it's going to involve the muscles.
Yeah.
Because Gear Second was sped up the bloodstream to give him basically an adrenaline rush so he can increase his power and speed. More so speed than power. Whereas Gear Third expanded his bones so he could drastically increase his power, but at the price of speed. And so it was kind of, so now the only other major thing that can really affect him would be muscles, because that's just the way it is. I feel. That's why it makes most sense, because what other part of the body could be affected in such a way, or what could he do to another part? What other body part could he change or increase to really its productivity in order to produce a massive effect? Nothing else. I mean, what is he going to do? Pump, inflate his eyes so he can see better?
Whole body. Become a giant.
Well, yeah, but it's still, the whole thing about sacrificing the speed for power.
Well, would it, though? If his whole body's big, can't he move at a more efficient rate?
But he would still, he would still be slower than his normal form.
Might be.
And, yeah, so then he'd have to then combine it with Gear Second, which is the other prominent theory, that it's going to be some combination, or more perfected combination, of Gear Third and Gear Second together. More perfected than that when he used it against Moria. Which is... And then, of course, there's the other theories about how it'll involve Haki and the Red Hawk, and those are nice theories, but they don't work because the gears have always involved an increase in Luffy's mastery over his Devil Fruit power.
Exactly.
And have been independent from the Haki from the beginning. The Haki only serves to add power to his techniques.
Yeah.
it only enhances the techniques, but it doesn't create new abilities. For it doesn't give him new, devil fruit abilities. It, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. There was this one theory. I'm gonna explain this like in decent detail here because this one was interesting, but it does have a flaw.
Mm-hmm.
Just due to the way it works in real life, but because it's fiction, it could work a certain way. Um, there's this thing called vulcanization. Do you know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Well, essentially, what it is in rubber, what they do is it's a technique that makes it more durable by hardening it. And a lot of people are saying that Gear Fourth is going to be vulcanization, but there's a giant flaw in that theory. Even though it's still plausible, this is what ultimately vulcanization is not used on manufactured rubber, which is what Luffy's rubber is. It's not natural rubber. Natural rubber is a very it's a viscous liquid, but it's a liquid that it's like extracted from trees. It cannot be used to stretch at all. Like it's still like a liquid in form. And so vulcanization is used to turn natural rubber into what we see as rubber, like rubber bands, Luffy, etc. And so people are saying vulcanization. Well, vulcanization is what makes Luffy what he is now. Not that wouldn't make him more durable. Though I do leave the leeway that because this is fiction, Oda can always turn vulcanization into something else other than what it is in real life and base it off of what it is in real life. So,
Yeah, but at the
so
same
yeah.
time, you gotta consider this. In order for that to happen, he would have to include the added flame power of his Haki, which then, when in turn, would make Gear Fourth dependent on Haki, which wasn't the trend before.
I don't think that's necessarily true, but there could always be something where like the reason why vulcanization happens is because of like sulfur. And so it's like could his body secrete sulfur or something out of nowhere? It would be really weird. It's really out there, but it's
Yeah,
not out of the realm of possibility.
Hi, Joe Oldemir. How you doing?
yeah, it's just
Thursday night. It's about almost 5 after 10.
he doesn't have. It's not like he has like a sulfur fruit or something.
So when you get
Or
Yeah.
and it'd be kind of weird if he had to like carry around sulfur with him all the time.
Uh-huh. It would be very weird. Like that's why I said
And
it's
with,
really out there, but it's not outside the realm of possibility, but it's very out there. And so I personally I do not I don't really give any credence to the theory, even though I do give it that leeway because anything is possible in fiction. So yeah, I agree with the fact that the muscles make the most sense because of bone and blood. Logically,
adding
muscles is next.
and muscles would not only would allow not only would allow added power without sacrificing too much speed.
Yeah.
Like, cause then gear what cause like again with the downfall of the even though gear third adds a lot of power, it's very bulky.
Hmm.
So it's hard to move around as much. Even when he combined it with gear second against Moria, it was only for one attack.
Yeah.
But so if gear fourth were to be a combination of both, it would be very stressful on his body to try and maintain for a couple of minutes in order to defeat Doflamingo.
Yeah, but as we know, even if that's the case, it won't be by the end of the series. So.
Well, yeah, and then of course, brings about everybody talking, thinking about what Gear Fourth can be and what its consequences are going to be. It always brings back. Then it's brings back to people talking about the Gears second and third and what their costs are slash were, and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Because people, with Gear third, the only downfall was that he turned chibi afterwards. But I'm assuming using Haki, using Haki, he was able to remove that, which is why he doesn't go chibi post time skip.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as for Gear Second, people are talking about how the only reason why it said it took time off his life was because he was using it when he was out of stamina.
I think it was just because his body wasn't ready for it.
And that post time skip, his body's now ready for it. That's why he can spam Gear Second so much.
Yeah, he can casually do it just with his arm, and that's it. I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah, that comes with the territory of mastering his Devil Fruit.
Exactly.
So just like the other two, Gear Fourth is going to give him a drastic increase in power and speed. More so power, because what but it's also gonna give him speed. But I think it's gonna give him more power than speed.
Uh-huh.
Now, if it does increase the muscle mass, how? Is it gonna be as simple as with Gear Third, where he's gonna just blow air into it, or is it gonna be something more? And how big is he gonna get muscularly?
Right.
Is he going to become like how bulky is he going to get? Is he going to become like as bulky as he was when he was Nightmare Luffy, or is he going to be, you know, like bodybuilder muscular?
Like Toriko.
Like, yeah, is he going to be like Toriko but muscular? Not muscular as in not referring to the time where they had the meteor garlic.
Right.
That was extra muscular, but like how the Toriko characters are normally muscular. Like, is it going to be that muscular, or is it going to be even more? Like, so, or should I say a better comparison, just in case you guys haven't gotten on the hype train. How muscular the DBZ characters are.
Yeah, like Ultra Super Saiyan 2 Trunks.
Ultra Trunks, no. That's I don't like. That's more comparable to like Nightmare Loop. I'm talking about like how big Goku and Vegeta were normally throughout
Yeah.
the series. More so after maybe Namek onward is when they really got like their. Because if you just compare like Goku, even Goku from before his training with King Kai to after his training with King Kai, his body mass just got huge.
Yeah.
So that's the big question. And like I said, and it's the fact that all of these answers aren't going to be, or should I say all these questions, because the fact that we're not going to get the answer to any of these questions next week and have to wait another week after that before we get them answered is what's pissing everyone off.
Oh yeah.
And Oda does this on purpose every time.
Oh yeah.
All the time. But I think this is his worst offense yet.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, I mean, I think we've pretty much covered a lot of the big theories as well as the chapter itself, so
The only thing left that I hope, was someone mentioned was as a joke, which I hope isn't true because it would cause an extreme clash in interest. Is someone jokingly said, "Oh, when we come back, instead of showing us what Gear Fourth is, Oda's gonna switch over and finally show us what's happening with Sanji." And I'm like, you bitch, you really gonna make me have that conflict in my head? Like, because initially it's like I wouldn't know what to think. Like, would I be angry because I don't get to see Gear Fourth, or am I angry because like it's a conflict in interest because he's giving it's
oh my gosh.
just a thought caused my like brain to burn out. Like, would I be happy or would I be angry? Like,
Don't break your fan base, Oda. Don't do that shit.
no. But just that's not going to happen, and I know that for a fact. It's just the fact that someone would even joke like that.
I know.
But overall, this chapter I thought was pretty good.
I thought this was a great chapter. I thought the fighting sequences really solidified the chapter. Besides the bomb that got dropped at the end, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean it was a really good chapter. I really enjoyed it. You know, it probably would have been an amazing chapter if it wasn't for the fact that not only was just the fact that Oda left it on a cliffhanger going into a 1 week break.
Yeah.
But overall, in the hindsight of this, like if you were sitting here, like marathoning these chapters, and you were able to go immediately to the next chapter, this chapter would be like amazing, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
See, that's unfortunately the reality when it comes to being a weekly manga reader, is as opposed to someone who gets to catch up to the series or read the entire series when it's over, you can just immediately go on. You don't have to wait a whole week or 2 weeks for it to happen. You can just catch up on the whole thing.
Exactly. I mean, of course, there's definitely pros and cons to both. I still enjoy being a weekly reader, even with the bullshit like this.
Well, yeah, I mean, the most notable benefit is the fact that you get to enjoy the material with the fandom as it comes out. Because if you're like somebody who like after it's over and you marathon the series, whether you're watching the anime or reading the manga or both, most of the people have already gone. Most of the fandom's gone up through it. I mean, just imagine those people. Just the perfect example that comes to my mind is those people who are going to pretend like they had to suffer with the rest of the fandom once Hunter x Hunter is over, finally gets finished, and someone marathons it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I feel your pain. I had those, all this pain and suffering the fandom had to go through all the hiatuses." And they're gonna be like, "Yeah, I suffer too," and then you're like, "Nope, just no, just don't do that, just no." I mean,
I know, right?
That's just the perfect example. Is right there. Is you didn't have to go through the trials and tribulations of having to deal with waiting.
Right.
Plus, you tend to be a little more hyped, I think. Because I mean.
Yeah.
Because about as you're reading weekly, the things that happen prior to this, the hype from that slowly fades as new hype is created. Whereas if you're marathoning the whole thing, there's not much time for the hype of the events of the earlier parts of the story to calm down before you get to the end. Which in turn can cause you to overblow the series. Like say, oh well, you think it's better than it actually is because you got to see the whole thing or read the whole thing, from start to finish in like a couple of weeks, as opposed to the years it took for it to come out.
Right.
I guess, especially for a review, it's especially good for a reviewing standpoint. If you're trying to think of it all, well, how good is the series? Well, if you just marathoned it, you might have missed a lot of like the flaws because you just went from hype to hype to hype. Whereas going weekly gives you time to actually pick it apart and get to fully understand the series and its pros and cons.
Yeah.
So that's just that little thing.
And you can't get spoiled.
Oh yeah, that too.
That's huge.
Oh yeah, that's a huge issue, especially with One Piece is the greatest offender of this because of its length. It takes so long to catch up that you have to literally, like, if you decide, hey, I'm going to watch One Piece and then read the manga, or read the manga from beginning to end, or beginning to now, where we are now, you literally have to avoid every other site besides the manga site that you're reading. You can't go into the forum just read the chapters. Bum, 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 bum. Don't go anywhere else on the internet until you're caught up.
Mhm.
Because it's gonna be spoilers. You know. Now I don't know exactly, but AZX was a victim of this because he was trying to get some One Piece music. Now he doesn't. I'm not going to ask him exactly specifically, but I'm pretty sure. I think I know what music he saw.
I'm pretty sure he got spoiled about Ace.
Yes.
He won't say what he got spoiled on, and I'm kind of
But
glad.
I don't want to bring it up. Don't bring. That's why I'm not bringing it up, because I don't want to, further to talk about it. What he particularly got spoiled on could only further to confirm his suspicions of the spoilage.
Well, he'll never watch this because he wouldn't going to get spoiled on this chapter, but.
Oh well, no, yeah, he won't. Which is what. But it's with any series in general. If you just get through it before you start reading about it on the internet, because spoilers are big. Alright, so I think that's just about it for this week on One Piece.
Yep. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.